Hello, we are live. New episode, Sprint Ride Option podcast, part of the Blue Wire Hustle Network. I am Andrew Pasquini, Jason Aponte to my right, and today we are talking linebackers. Jason, how was your weekend though? It's Monday. We haven't recorded on a Monday since maybe the season ended. It's been a while. So how was your weekend?
It was good. It was relaxing. Got some time to prepare for the storm that's about to start tomorrow with training camp opening, and I'm flying out Thursday, so it was a good relaxing time.
Good, relaxing. I'm glad to hear. This is usually where I like crack a joke about a certain baseball team you like, but I'm gonna withhold from that. I'm gonna withhold from that because I watched. Yeah, not great. We'll just transition straight into the linebackers from there.
Let's just talk about a real sport.
Jordan, catering to Jordan, who's in the chat, I see. So 49ers, the linebackers, running off of what they have on their website. We've run into some issues with that. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shaair got it right this week. Demetrius Flanagan, Fowles, Jonas Griffin, James Burgess Jr., Justin Hilliard, Elijah Sullivan. Jason, we'll start with just the first question. Broad answer. Whatever you want to give me. What's the outlook for this position? Are we worried about the depth? Is the top end good enough to just make us not worry about the depth? Give us the overrun or the overview of the 49ers linebackers.
Yeah, obviously if something happens to Fred Warner, that's not what you want. That's a famous, it's an Aaron Boone quote, I believe. That's not what you want. Like after the game's over and they lose and they get their heads pounded in, that's not what you want. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, any team, if they lost their starting linebackers, I don't think anybody really has the depth to really, just say, oh, we'll be fine. So, I mean, I guess to answer your question, you never want to see any sort of injury, but you have to be excited with Warner. You have to be excited with a possible jump from Dre Greenlaw again this year. And, I see that Jordan's in here, so we got to put some respect on Demetrius Flanagan Foles because he's running the hive. But, with the way that this defense goes, there's also a possibility that you could see Hufanga take some will linebacker snaps if needed. That's just the way, it's pretty much closer to the way the game's being played about, converted safeties become linebackers and things like that. So, obviously you never want injuries. You could probably say that about a million other positions on this team and everybody else's team pretty much for their positions. But yeah, I mean, they're top heavy right now with the best in the game, and he's locked up, and Dre Greenlaw is ascending, and hopefully he takes that leap and they can become that duo that was similar to Willis and Bowman. I mean, I'm not going to put those lofty expectations on there, but I'm just talking about like 1 and 2, being solid and set up. So with linebacker, I have very little to really, sleep at, lose sleep over. I'm much more concerned with cornerback depth than I am linebacker depth.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you have a guy like Fred Warner who's never missed it, and that was a question I was going to ask, Jordan. So good job picking up on that. Linebacker. I mean, they're so good at the top end. I mean, you have the best linebacker in the game, Fred Warner. You have Dre Greenlaw, who inconsistent at times. I think that's a fair way to put it. But he is definitely trending in the right direction. Azeez Al-Shaair has been there. Obviously, Demetrius Flanagan Foles, we can't not talk about him. James Burgess Jr., he's been around the league. This is going to be his 5th team in 5 years. Started with the Browns, went to the Dolphins, Jets, Packers, now the Niners. So he has experience with all types of different defenses, all that fun stuff. I was going to ask about All-Pro Fred first, but since Jordan does want to talk about Dre Greenlaw, because I feel like that's been a topic of conversation, kind of what Dre Greenlaw actually is, how good he is. Obviously, the Niners view him highly. They move off of Quan Alexander to get him more snaps. Where would you rank, if we're tiering off the linebackers in the NFL, where would you put Dre Greenlaw? Average, above average, below average, well above average, things like that? What area would you have Dre Greenlaw?
I mean, the homer in me wants to say, great, but I believe that he's above average at this point. Last year he did take a little bit of a step back, and everybody always wants to cite broken tackles, right? That he never loses any tackles, but took some poor angles at times, and that's going to come. That's growing pains, and a lot of that has to do with with the losses on the defense. And, when you lose somebody up front, then it cascades all the way through the defense. So I'm not going to kill him for that or anything like that. Like, you see in the comments, people are asking about, Rich Madrid's take on it. And I think that all right. So with Twitter, there's no context in a tweet, right? Yes. Only because you only have a certain amount of characters. So what I think is what Rich tried to say is that he took a bit of a step back last year, but that doesn't mean that he won't improve or anything like that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that he's overrated. I wouldn't say he's overrated. It's just, it's okay for people to say, hey, he has to improve on certain things. He has to do things a little bit better. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I would say that right now he's above average with a chance to be something very special if he can add a little bit more into the run game, because he's good in coverage. But yeah, I'm not really too worried about Greenlaw. I think that, once the defense as a whole is there and there's no injuries, then that has an effect on everybody. And I think that people are downplaying that portion of it because everybody points to that Seattle game, but the 49ers were getting whipped. Everybody played badly in that game. Everyone basically, except for like Brandon Ayuk. That was like literally the only, and Kittle, like, that was a really rough game for everybody. So yeah, it's okay to say that, hey, Dre Greenlaw has to do some improving while still, also maintaining that, yeah, this is his second year and he's definitely not overrated. I feel like our fan base at times, every player on our team is the greatest in the world and they're the best. I've seen people say that Warner and Greenlaw are the best 1-2 in the league. Let's not go that far, but that doesn't mean that that's not something that can happen. But I believe that our fan base does a really good job of overrating players at a time. So hyping, I guess maybe that's pretty much. Yeah,
we'll
pretty much. That's a better way to put it. That's a better way to
Yeah, and like obviously, like when you're a player like Dre Greenlaw who has a play that instantly we recognize as the trademark play of his career, two of them, yeah, because the interception in the I'm assuming you're referring to the interception in the first Seattle game. We tend to, we were ready to put him in the 49ers Hall of Fame after that second Seahawks game. I also believe he took a step back. Obviously the missed tackle stat is a thing with linebacker, just like defensive backs. Stats only tell you so much. You actually have to watch the tape, watch the games, all that stuff to understand what their response. And I'm not even saying it's easy, because if I were to watch Dre Greenlaw on tape, I wouldn't even fully understand what he's doing. Linebacker's a tough position to understand and break down. And I don't think you could just look at the stats, because we could look at Fred Warner's rookie year and see, hey, he had 124 tackles. Wow, he had an amazing year. But you can go back and look at some things. I think if I remember correctly, pass coverage was iffy with him his rookie year. If I remember correctly, I could be way wrong on that. There's a lot of nuance going on with the linebacker position, and stats aren't going to tell all.
And if I could correlate that with somebody who usually leads the league in tackles, Blake Martinez, right? Blake Martinez moved from Green Bay to the Giants, but a lot of that had to do with a lot of tackle opportunities that you had. And when you watch him, sometimes he's lost in running. So I'm in run game. So it's really weird to just correlate tackles to just saying, hey, look, this guy's amazing. You have to think about, hey, the front part of that defense is also letting that through so he can actually get tackles. Good on him for getting to the ball. That's definitely a talent, and that's something that he should be happy about. But to say, oh, look at all these tackles, okay, now he's this, and this. No, you have to understand what's going on right there. And Blake Martinez, for the Giants, and you can point to last year's game against the Niners, that man was like running around, spinning around, trying to figure out where the ball was. And that's usually how you catch him at times. But he does have a high amount of tackles. So it's hard to just say, hey, tackles are the end all be all.
Yeah, no, there's linebackers, man. They got to do a lot. I'm not jealous of how hard that job is, because you got to be a little bit of everything. And for a player like Fred Warner, you got to be a little bit of a quarterback as well. Because you're out there playing the calls, reading the offense, all that fun stuff. Tackle for loss is a better indicator than just tackle. I chose to go extreme with Fred Warner there with his rookie year. But speaking of Fred Warner, Jason, we Niner fans obviously see him as the best linebacker in the NFL, and whether that is true or not, we'll find out here in a couple weeks. He is All-Pro Fred. What makes him built different, right? Like what makes him better than the average or even above average linebacker? What are the little things that you've noticed when you watch him?
Well, first of all, let me point out a take that was floating around Twitter once Fred Warner signed his deal. I forget the guy's name, Frisco Josh, something like that, Hermsmeyer. I don't know how to say his name. So he says, wow, that's a terrible deal for the 49ers and they should feel bad. because you don't pay middle linebackers. Okay, now here's the argument. Here's why you pay Fred Warner as opposed to just any old middle linebacker. He cites that the middle of the field is something that can easily be covered, and you can find that with any middle linebacker. Okay, fine. You have your little template of how you want to gauge things. The difference is, and someone else pointed out, when there's a 3-by-1 on his side, that doesn't mean that he's covering the third receiver. You understand? Like if the Tennessee Titans are there, okay, on the left side, you've got A.J. Brown. In the middle, you've got, let's say, Josh Reynolds. And on your third is Julio Jones. Well, guess who's equipped to take care of him and at least cover him in a way where you can feel – you don't want to do that all the time, put Fred Warner on Julio Jones. But on one down, there's no problem with that. So listen to this. So you've seen Fred Warner cover Marquise Brown, one of the fastest guys in the league last year in the Ravens game. He covers tight ends. He can cover Julio Jones for a down. So this is all stuff that he can do that is the reason that he's being paid. Never mind the professionalism, the way he carries himself, the way that he leads, and him understanding what he's seeing. And also just the way that the defense rallies around him. And I mean, the game is going towards speed, right? And then again, another discussion that annoyed me right away, because as 49er fans, we just have to compare, right? Everything can't just be, oh my goodness, he's really great. It's, oh, is he better than Patrick Willis? Well, Jesus, man, like, what do you like? Patrick Willis was like 7 straight Pro Bowls, first player to ever do that at the position. And might I add, in a short few years that he stopped playing, the game has changed. The game is speed. It's not. That's why you see so many safeties converted into linebackers who play linebacker, because you have to be able to cover these faster guys. Guys aren't built the same, and that's just a few short years ago. How long ago Patrick Willis was playing? So it's not like you're comparing apples to apples. There's got to be context in between. So Fred Warner is built for today's game with speed, being able to cover linebackers, being able to cover wide receivers, on top of knowing what he's doing. He's a professional. He took every single snap at OTAs when he could have said, hey, I don't have a deal. I'm just going to go work off on the side, and you let me know when my deal is ready. No, he carries himself that way with a quiet confidence. That's wwhy so many people, when people were wondering what jersey to get, everybody was running to Fred Warner. Why? Because he's going to be here for a long time, and that's a jersey of a guy that you want. Look, you can't be rigid in the way that you evaluate things, right? Yes. So yes, you're right. You don't pay a middle linebacker, a bunch of money, but that's not Fred Warner. There has to be some sort of context to it. Fred Warner is different. There's a tier of different, and then there's middle linebackers. Fred Warner's at the top of that, and what he does is invaluable. He's worth every single penny. There's my ring.
I guess the comparison we already set up was you're not giving that money to a Blake Martinez. You're giving it to a Fred Warner, who like he's so damn good. He's everywhere. Like, he has a little bit of that Patrick Willis in him, where he's just kind of everywhere the ball is. You can you know where he is on the field. You just look for the ball, and 54 odds are is there. Something about him. The Niners are just really good at churning out linebackers. I mean, starting with Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, you get that 1 year of Chris Borland into Fred Warner, and hopefully Dre Greenlaw develops into it, right? Like, you want to see that, because if they can get that 1-2 punch, especially with how often, I mean, I know they run a 4-3, but more often than not, it's more, you know, I don't want to dive in too deep on the X's and O aspect, because I'm not the best at it. But they do put a lot on Greenlaw and Warner, you know, just by themselves on the field, because Greenlaw can play as that cover guy. And he can play, as you said, every so often you're okay with him taking on a Julio Jones or a quicker guy. You know, it's kind of insane. Like, we talk about Hufanga coming up as a safety. He can drop down as a linebacker. You could almost drop back Fred Warner every so often, you know, like that. Not like a deep back safety, but somebody who can guard a receiver very well. So there's the two top guys. Is there anybody other than Demetrius Flanagan, Foles, that we've already kind of touched on, that you have an interested eye going into training camp with?
Yeah, I kind of want to see what happens with Justin Hilliard. I want to read off his draft profile just so I don't miss anything. Strength showed tremendous resilience and perseverance over 6 years. I don't know what that means. Motor is cranked up to 100 at all times. Charged through gaps and looks to attack blocking scheme. Took an expanded role and played well over his final 3 games. Major factor as core special teamer. 19 career tackles on kick and punt returns. He has injury concerns. 84 career tackles in 47 games. I mean, honestly, after the top tier of linebackers, it's really hard to get excited about anybody else. I'm really excited to see maybe if Hufanga can be that hybrid type where he can maybe be on the field with Ward and Tart, and who knows? I mean, honestly, after the first two, it's really, really just anybody's guess. And they'll find ways to figure that out. Al-Shaair is somebody that if he can really take the next step next year, like he really needs to take one more good step, then this linebacker core is set. So realistically, you're looking at your top three just of Warner, Greenlaw, Al-Shaair, and yeah, you should be fine if Al-Shaair improves even a little bit from last year.
Yeah, Azeez Al-Shaair is one that I've always been interested in. He feels like he's been here for a bit. He's usually the first guy who steps in if a player has to miss a down. He's been decent for the Niners. I know he's been here for a few years. He's not one of the well-known names quite yet, but I think he has the potential to be one of those guys that we talk about, like as that quiet. Nobody really knows him around the league, but he's pretty good. He's a well-kept secret. I'm excited for him. James Burgess too. I don't know exactly where he fits in. But I'm interested just because he's a name that you kind of know at this point. Not exactly what he's been expected to be, but he's been good enough to get a fifth chance with a different team. As I said, he's been with 5 different teams over his career. So we'll see if he makes a spot, see if he can make an impact in any way. Yeah, you got something, Jason. Let's do it.
Yeah, I know that we were going to be talking linebackers and everything, but I think we should touch on some news that came out today that kind of affects the 49ers because so Aaron Rodgers is back.
Aaron Rodgers is back.
So we thought week 3 was going to be Blake Bortles against Jimmy Garoppolo, and it seems like Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. So when we did our preview show of hey, wins losses, right? We kind of went under the assumption that we thought that Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to be there. Aaron Rodgers is going to be there now, and that game, the home opener, has just jumped from like a 10 to a 20 now at this point. Here's the thing with them. It's realistically, and this is what it correlates to with the 49ers. We thought it's the Bucks, right? We thought it was the Bucks, and then a tier down is every single team in the NFC West as long as Aaron Rodgers isn't there. Now, is it Bucks, Packers, and then everybody, or is it Bucks, Niners? So the NFC kind of shakes out a little bit differently now because we assumed the Packers were going to be out of the way, right? There's no way that they can do anything good with either Jordan Love or Blake Bortles. Now Aaron Rodgers is back. One more year. Devontae Adams is going to be back. That team won 13 games back-to-back years. It's not like you can just sit there and dismiss them. I understand that the 49ers dismantled them in 2019, but at the same time, this isn't a team that's going anywhere, at least this year.
Oh, yeah. The 2020 Packers, I think, are better off against the 2019 Niners. Like, I think that's known. I mean, they were significantly better last year than they were in 2019. So I'm excited for that game because we're going to get to see what could have been last year if the Niners and Packers matched up, fully healthy, because I have no doubt that the Niners and Packers would have met in the playoffs if the Niners stay healthy. I think that's just kind of how it usually works. The Niners and Packers always seem to find each other in the playoffs. And so that's something I'm excited for week 3, because now you get the all-in Packers. Like, I mean, there was a 3-minute span the other day where it's like, oh, the Packers might not have Rodgers or Devontae Adams. Like, what's going on here? Now they're going to have both. They're going to be full on like what we expect from the Green Bay Packers. And we cannot, like, the last thing I want to see going into week 3, if the Niners are 2-0 and the Packers are 2-0, is people saying, yeah, this is a win for the Niners. You see how easily they did in 2019? Like, Nick Bosa is going to have, no, we cannot do that. We absolutely cannot do that, because this might be a little bit of a, because the assumption could be is that this might be Rodgers' last year in Green Bay. It sounds like they're working on a deal to get him one more year and go. This could be an ultimate FU Green Bay year where he's like, I'm going to go off, have an MVP season, and I am out of here. I'm going to show you guys what you're missing. So this Packers team is different. And this week 3 game, we had a little bit of a, you wrote it in a pencil, circled it in pencil, just in case you have to erase it because Aaron Rodgers is going to the Broncos. Sharpie, red Sharpie, whatever it is, circle that game.
Yeah, that's a big game now. And you know what? Look, I want the 49ers to win games, but man, home opener, Sunday Night Football, Green Bay against the 49ers. whoever's going to be starting at quarterback, man, that game is going to be juiced. And anybody who tells you that they didn't want Aaron Rodgers to play, okay, you probably wanted the win, but I would much rather beat Aaron Rodgers and that team at full strength. And I think that anybody should want to beat a team at full strength. There's a good question from Tony here. Tony, thank you, man, for the question. You're always live in our chat. Do you think Ebukam is going to play some Sam linebacker? And that's a good one because technically, right? So they have Ebukam as like an edge, but he is a linebacker though. So that is a good
yes.
That is a good question. So I think he will, and I think that a lot of what they're going to do in terms of, you've heard D'Amico Ryan say, yes, we're going to be blitzing a little bit more. We're going to be a lot more aggressive, and you've heard it from players. This is something that I feel like they've discussed, especially when you're talking about guys who have come back, on 1-year deals and things like that. They'll probably show Ebukam at the line a lot, have him drop back into coverage to disguise some things. So he's a chess piece, man. I think they can move him around as much as possible. And I think that he's going to be fine in that turbo package. And we're also starting to get, I don't want to get excited. We're starting to get some rumblings of D Ford might be playing. And realistically, guys, when this news came out, D Ford doesn't have to play anything other than passing downs. That's it. I don't want to see him on running on a potential running situations. I don't want to see him on first down, third downs when you got to go get the quarterback. Bring D Ford, like get him out of the ice chamber, put him on the field, and then bring him right back in. Like that's realistically for the impact that D Ford should have on his defense. It should just be on strict passing downs. That's it. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pair him and D Ford. So it's good to get all this news together because D Ford is technically a linebacker, right?
Yes.
So that's another person that we kind of have to talk about as well too. So it's really good that you're hearing all these things, and the front office seems like they think it's going to happen. And there's rumblings that it's going to, Fred Warner said he looks great and he's ready to go. Fred Warner's never told a lie in my book. I don't think he's ever lied. I don't think he ever will. So it's really interesting to figure out how they plan to use them. Do they plan to flip them? Do they plan to use them at the same time? It's going to be really interesting, but both of those guys are wild cards.
Yeah, and I should have said it. Jason and I had internal conversations where we counted edge as defensive linemen, so we will cover all your defensive lineman need and whenever that episode may be. But in terms of Ebukam going to Sam, he's probably, for the sake of this episode, he'd probably be the guy. I see Jesse Rodriguez asking Hufanga playing Sam. I think you could see him on rotational situations, but everything perfect in terms of health. Ebukam's playing that Sam linebacker maybe almost every down, but then on those pass rush situations, D Ford 100% needs to be in. D Ford, I mean, what was the word the Chiefs used for him? He was a Sunday player. That's it. You shouldn't practice him. And this is I think a little bit of where the 49ers mishandled him. And he is definitely a Sunday player. Don't practice him. Get him ready for the game and get him up on Sunday. That's it. Just make sure he gets to Sunday, realistically. Yeah, no, it's if D Ford, oh my God, like it's exciting because if D Ford can be healthy, like those third downs, you got Armstead and Bosa and Ford, and it's just it's hard not to get excited. This is, I guess that's the fun thing of a new season, right, Jason? Is like we can talk about these fun thoughts because it's a new year, man. Like it's like the new school year. Your sophomore year is your sophomore year. You're a junior now. You're another year older. It's a little more exciting. You can pretend like you're going to actually study for 3 hours a night and say you're going to do it and make it a plan and then have it, what actually happens. But hey, we're almost in August, which that's our benchmark is August 1st, man. That's when it's really fun. I know we got what's coming up this weekend, which I'm sure you want to touch on in a second here. It's exciting. And if the Niners can get D Ford, a healthy D Ford, and have him be a very, 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 very important rotational piece, the Niners defense is only going to be better for it.
Absolutely. And you're the interior and Javi and Jordan, they pointed it out on Twitter. It's a fearsome group right now with Kerr, Mo Hurst, Kinlaw on the inside, and there's a lot of inkling of, and these guys are the ones who are pointed out because they're much smarter than I am. It is, hey, what are they trying to bring in maybe more pressure from the inside as opposed to just straight up like on the edges? And that's something that's interesting. So I'm excited for that group, but that's a defensive line thing. That's something that's completely different. But D Ford and Ebukam, they technically linebackers when you look at their position, but again, they just moved around and everything. So we had to touch on them real quick.
Do we want to spin the wheel, or do we just want to go straight to D-line next episode?
We could. I mean, the next episode is going to be camp, largely camp based, because camp opens tomorrow. I'll be flying out Thursday, so I'll be around there Thursday probably. So I mean, I'm not going to be there for the practice on Thursday because of what time I land, but yes, Thursday I'll be out there, and anything from now on is going to be camp, and then probably we'll have to divvy off into a whole other episode. So one will be camp, one will have to be like a positional thing, but there's too much to talk about with camp and everything around. So we'll see what's going on. It's tomorrow. It's unbelievable. It's tomorrow. Yeah. I can't believe it.
It almost feels like yesterday we were arguing about the draft, and now all of a sudden, like we're pretty much there. I mean, tomorrow with camp starting, that's like the first real feel that the season's coming up, and then obviously the preseason games. Jason, do you have any last thoughts on linebackers then before we get out of here?
Nope. Just batten down the hatches because tomorrow starts the Fields and the Lance and Jimmy talk. Even more.
Wait, it starts the conversation.
It should start it. I mean, people have been arguing. Like today, the tweet floating around. This is how annoying this has gotten. Someone sent out a tweet talking about Jimmy Garoppolo threw a 70-yard pass at a private workout. Okay, BS. There was no private workout. There was no 70-yard pass. And the people who want their confirmation bias are out here. Oh my God! You see, the boy's ready to work. Shut up. Can you look at who else reported it? No one reported that. And now all of a sudden you're taking it and running with it. God, I can't wait for tomorrow because then at least people could say, man, Lance had a good day, or Jimmy had a bad day, or Jimmy had a bad day and Lance had a good day, as opposed to people making stuff up and trying to run for confirmation bias. God, I'm tired of it.
All right, so we're just not going to talk about how Raheem Mostert ran a 3.940 in my head?
Yeah, there you go. And you know what else? I deadlifted 675 pounds yesterday in a private workout.
I was there. I can confirm that, Jason. All right, man. Well, it sounds like we have some conversing to do regarding our next episode and the exact plans for that. So when we find that out, we will give it to the people. Jason, any final general thoughts on anything you want to mention before we get out of here?
No, the Yankees stink, and I'm tired of them, so I stopped watching them. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. I can't wait to get out there to Cali, and I can't wait to link up with people and, just get football going. And, it's exciting time. So trying to make sure everything's ready to go before we go, make sure all the content's straight, and then it's all systems go this week. So just 49er fans, it's back. It's football season, man. I'm so excited.
Jason Aponte is the busiest man on 49ers Twitter. That is a fact. Jason, I hope you have a good trip over to this side of the country. And I am for real, sorry about the Yankees. That's a brutal series. And usually I have jokes ready to go, and I don't even want to touch that because all the wild pitches, the no-hitter going into the eighth, all that sucks.
Real quick, the thing is that the Yankees had won 9 of 12, right? But those 3 losses were literally the worst kind of ways that you could have lost the game. So it's it's not even hey, they just got outclassed. It's literally 6 runs to the Astros in the 9th inning. The game that you're talking about with all the wild pitches after they took the lead, a no-hitter going into the 8th. I didn't even watch that game. I don't care. After that first Red Sox game, I was like, all right, this season's cooked. I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. And Tony, thank you for the donation. I appreciate you, man. For some in and out. Yes, finally I get to try it so I can hear what you guys are always yelling out about. And don't ask me for my review because I don't want to partake in what's better. I'm just going to have it, and I'm just going to sit with my thoughts by myself. I don't want to have the discussion. I don't want to have it.
That'll be the tease for the next episode. First question, how was in and out? And there's no discourse. I'll just let you say your bit, and then we will talk about the 49ers. As I said, I am sorry about the New York Yankees, but hey, at least you'll get another week of fake hope if they get Trevor Story. So that'll be
nah. Nope.
Jason is done with the Yankees. It is officially football season. The Yankees are dead. You heard it here on the Sprint Ride Option podcast first. Jason Aponte, as always.
Go Niners, and I hate you Yankees.